Board of Education meeting for January 22nd, 2024. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Cerrone?
Here.
Mr. Gatewood?
Present.
Ms. Johnson?
Present.
Dr. Murillo?
Present.
Mr. Floker?
Present.
Ms. Hamilton?
Present.
Ms. Venman?
Present.
Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a motion to postpone the following agenda items for a future meeting? 4.1, 5.1, 9.5, and 9.6.
I make a motion to postpone the following agenda items to a future meeting. 4.1, Pride presentations, 5.1, student presentation, 9.5, EBF and beyond, 9.6, mowing bid results.
Second.
Ms. Venman?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Floker?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Do we have public comment? Okay. Since there is no public comment, we will move on. I move to 7.1, the superintendent report.
Good evening, board, and good evening, community. It's great to see everyone this evening on this. Despite the icy conditions out there, you've braved it, and we appreciate your coming out tonight. Due to what we know is the icy conditions, I'm going to make a couple brief comments, but in the last couple of months, we've invited board members to also make shout-outs regarding special events, and we will save those this month for this board meeting. I'll be sending those out in more of a memo and a follow-up. A couple of things I do have to take note and speak to this evening. We've got our 14th annual Communities versus Cancer event on Saturday, January 27th. This is hosted at Oswego High School, and it's a partnership between Oswego High School and Yorkville High School. Basketball game between our two teams for boys and girls basketball. The first game begins at 9 a.m. as well, and this event will include a blood donation, bake sale, raffles, bone marrow donation sign-up, and an art gallery. Proceeds of this will go to Cal's Angels, helping to grant wishes, raise awareness, and fund research for childhood cancer. Really important. It's such an important part of our community that we really invest in really doing for others and beyond what our own needs are. And so grateful for this. This month, we're kicking off a new annual initiative, inviting all local artists to share their portraits to be featured in an SD308 coloring book for our elementary students. The effort is underway to collect works that better represents the students and styles that make up our district. I'd like to ask Dr. Waller to speak a little bit about what prompted this initiative, because I think it's an important story to tell.
All right, hello. So we are really excited to support the students with Ascend and the work that we're doing with them. They have been working very hard to provide an amazing event. It will be taking place on February 16th. In addition to that, we have had some amazing meetings where the students have been really elevating their voices. And so we're preparing for Amplify, as well as getting our teacher survey pieces together so the students can begin to address student-teacher relationships. So we are really excited about all of their work.
Thank you, Dr. Waller. This past month, on January 18th, our new district dual language committee met for the first time. This is really building on the opportunities that are before us as a community. We've heard this past fall a lot of some of the concerns, but also strengths of our dual language program. And out of this, we've launched this committee. 20 staff and parents participated. The committee's purpose is to build on the strengths and to continue to improve the dual language program. The group began by sharing out the positive outcomes for students. Then there was a presentation discussion about the growth of the English language learner population. and the program's space needs. Yes, we have space needs. The meeting was extremely productive and well received, and I want to thank the leadership for organizing, and the group meets again on February 15th. And next month, we are launching Black History Month, although arguably it's Black History Month every day. So we'll kick off Black History Month formally, and throughout the month, we'll be sharing stories of inspiration, examples of preservation and achievement, and ideas on our ways our students and staff can celebrate and inspire generations. This year is also near and dear to my heart, which is that we're celebrating and we're focusing on the theme of African Americans and the arts. We'll be helping to highlight visual and performing arts, literature and fashion, music, all throughout the month. And particularly for me, this is unique as a Black educator and an artist myself. I find that this is really important because the arts have had a big influence in my life. And so I'm thrilled that this is the theme. And this past month, if you still have time, it's still at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago. Faith Ringgold, many of you may know the book Tar Beach. If you taught third grade or second grade, it's always a popular book there. And her work is being shown there, the quilts there. So head over to Chicago when it's not icy though. So, and with that, stay tuned for more information on our website. And I just want to thank everybody as we wrap up the month of January.
Well, thank you for that report, Dr. Kelgati. And we're moving on to our student ambassadors are not with us this evening, and so we will not have a student ambassador report. Can I have a motion to move 7.3 and 7.4 to the end of our action items?
Make a motion to move the following agenda items after our action items: 7.3 board committee reports and 7.4 board member comments.
Second.
Dr. Maria,
Aye.
Ms. Simonton,
Aye.
Mr. Ploger,
Aye.
Mr. Saron,
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood,
Aye.
Ms. Bennett,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson.
Aye.
We'll be moving on to 8.1, our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve our consent agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve all items under consent, including 8.1, minutes from the Board of Education meeting on January 8, 2024, open and closed session, 8.2, to acknowledge the FOIA requests received by the district, and 8.3, to approve the field trips for overnight over 200 miles.
Second.
Are there any questions on the consent agenda?
Mr. Gatewood,
Aye.
Dr. Maria,
Aye.
Ms. Johnson,
Aye.
Mr. Saron,
Aye.
Ms. Simonton,
Aye.
Mr. Ploger,
Aye.
Ms. Bennett.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay. This evening, we're going to begin with looking at the 2024 referendum bond refinancing. I'm going to invite Bob Lewis to join us, and we also, Mr. Obafemi, our Chief Financial Officer, to please introduce.
Hi, board. We have Mr. Bob Lewis from PMA, Mr. Lewis, who's the district's municipal advisor. And just by the way of introduction, this refunding is for a referendum bond that was issued originally back in 2013. That bond is callable 10 years after. And back in February of, in August of last year, in February of last year, the board did an approval for the bond to be refunded. But the administration looked at interest rate then, and at that time, it didn't make sense financially to go ahead and complete the refunding because of the savings that will accrue from that refunding wasn't significant enough to go ahead and do the refunding. So we were waiting until such a time when interest rate would better, and starting in October, November, based on the policy of the board and the economy, interest rate is actually trending in the right direction right now. So we've decided to bring it back and be able to realize enough significant savings to be worth the issuing cost. So I've asked Mr. Lewis to come here and talk to the board about it. Take it away, Bob. Thanks.
Hello?
There we go.
Works. Well, thank you for having me here tonight. And Mr. Obafemi gave me a good setup there to review where we've been at on this discussion. And a little bit more recap in detail. You may recall last summer we refinanced another bond issue and locked in the savings and got that done. And then that bond was callable on October 1st. That's why we could take the action we did. This bond, 2014, is not callable until actually later at the beginning of next month. And the interest rate on this bond is 4.17%, and the par amount that's outstanding is 9.6 million. This was the estimated savings when we presented to the board at the beginning of August, when the board took action and approved the resolution to proceed with the plan. And so the total savings right around 250,000. Present value is around 200. And then by the end of August, because there's things you have to get in place, you can't just lock it in like you would like a bank mortgage. By the end of August, savings had deteriorated to the point where there was very little savings remaining. And after that point in time, here's a graphical representation. So here around August, it was right here, is when the board approved to move ahead, and then things just really kind of fell apart in the market, and interest rates began to rise. Economic reports in terms of jobs and inflation were not positive for bond markets, and the narrative shifted to the Federal Reserve is going to keep rates higher for longer. They only lasted for about a couple months, that narrative, and it seems like they just spun around on their heels, and by the end of this year, the narrative was the Fed's going to cut rates next year, and the markets don't wait for the rates to be cut. They move and rates adjust at that time. So we started to see the improvement you see out here at the far end. I'm pointing at the lines here. These represent a municipal bond index of AAA rated bonds. We use it to monitor trends, just like Dow Jones Industrials is used in the stock market. It's not meant to be exactly where any particular school district would borrow, but it gives us an idea of where the market is heading.
I think this was one of Mr. Obafemi's first decisions when he came on board, wasn't it?
Yes.
He asked us to hold, so
Yes.
I think I remember.
It was a good. There really was no value remaining, and
Yeah.
so. And so interest rates have plateaued since the beginning of the year. They've started to tick up here a little bit, so the savings that you see here are a little less than what I shared about a week ago. This is what was shared with the Finance Committee. Unfortunately, it ticked down just a little bit more. I estimate they're probably around maybe 345-ish, 340 present value savings. Hopefully, the market continues to host a couple of good or important economic reports in this week. First reading of GDP for the fourth quarter, as well as the Fed's preferred inflation measure. So we'll see how those go. So what are the remaining steps? Well, we have to refreshen up the rating. You can't just slap the rating on your bonds and say they're rated. We have to have a call with the rating agency, and we're scheduled to have that this week on Wednesday. And then we're going to try to get them accelerate this schedule a bit. So hopefully if we have the call this Wednesday, we probably will be able to get that rating back more around February 1st. And then you have to put that on a document called the preliminary official statement. That gets circulated for about a week for potential investors to investigate your bonds. So likely, hopefully, be selling the bonds, assuming the market holds still, around February, I don't know if the 8th is on a weekend or not, but somewhere around there, a little bit earlier than the 12th. Why this timeline is important is because that resolution that the board approved is only good for 6 months. There's a sunset date put into there, and I don't have the exact date on the top of my head, but it's right around February 20th. Action has to proceed to sell the bonds. If that action doesn't occur, it's not a huge thing. It just means the board has to reauthorize the resolution. And if we get to that point, that's because interest rates begin to climb again. So we just would want to reauthorize the resolution and just be prepared to take action whenever the market would hopefully ebb back our way. So any questions on that presentation?
Just slide 6. We see this quite a bit. So the dollar savings projected as of now is $440,000. Then we get the net present value benefit. What are you using to discount that? Are you using whatever the expected rate is gonna be?
Yeah, the expected rate's
Okay.
3.496, so it's used as the PV factor.
Okay, yeah, for some reason I was looking at the 3892 and the 3496 and I was
Yeah.
thinking it was the
So
same
what-
number. I'm like, this,
Yeah, what this
Maybe timing,
is,
that's all.
that's a good question. There's a lot of numbers here. I probably could have done a cleaner job explaining them. Here's the present value savings, and we take that number and divide it by the principal amount of the bonds you refunded to get that percentage. And the reason why we do that is so you can make relative comparisons, because if I was showing you a refunding for $50 million of principal and the savings were $375,000, that wouldn't be a whole lot of value for $50 million refunding. So that's why, so by dividing by the principal amount, you get sort of a relative comparison regardless of the size of the issue.
okay, and you're discounting it by 3.5. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they happen to be close. That's a coincidence.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of questioning, that's all. Okay,
Okay.
I'm good.
Just out of curiosity, who buys these bonds? Who specifically in our case buys them? Is
Yeah,
it a public
so-
offering or?
Yeah, it's a public offering. Raymond James was the underwriter who won in our RFP, and they will put it. So what happens on the day that we price the bonds, an order period is open for a period of 2 hours, and then different investors will call various Raymond James traders and put in orders. And that could be Nuveen, it could be BlackRock, it could be separately management accounts. Yeah, I mean,
Chase, Fifth Third.
right. So a whole bunch of different types of investors might be interested in this. A big purchaser now are these separately managed accounts where they buy a bunch of bonds and then individuals can buy into these separately managed accounts and have shares in them. It's sort of like a mutual fund, but a little more sophisticated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bob.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Mr. Lewis.
We're going to build on this and continue with just some of the opportunities. One of them that happens every year is our final audit report, an extremely important part of our business in this district. And I want to welcome Jason Quill from Baker Tilly, who led this, and Mr. Obafemi.
So this is a requirement by statute. Every school district, actually, I dare say every public entity is required to be audited to just let the resident of the community as well as folks with interest to know what kind of financial condition the district is in. So this is a financial audit that is performed of the prior year financials. So the audit result that Mr. Coyle is going to present is for last fiscal year. I'm going to hand it over to Jason. Thank you.
Is that working now? Yeah, there we go.
I was trying to hold it in.
I can tell. It was good though.
Let it go.
All right, well, with that excitement, we'll move into the audit report here. So, yeah, as was mentioned, this is the audited financial statements as of June 30th. So I won't talk too long about this. I'll just highlight a few things. By their nature, obviously, we're about 7 months after the end of the fiscal year, so these numbers are a little stale, but that's how audits work. You know, it takes us time to go through and do all of our audit tests. So in your board packet are the financial statements, both the ones that are distributed publicly, and then there's an annual financial report that is submitted to the State Board of Education in the format that they like. In your financial statements, on page 1 is our opinion from our firm. It's about 3 pages long. It's an unmodified or unqualified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give over the financial statements and the financial statement information within your financial statements. Basically, what that opinion means is that somebody could pick up the financial statements of the district and rely on the information in there as they're evaluating your financial health and your financial operations for fiscal year 23. And so there's no change in the level of assurance that we gave this year versus last year. It continues to be an unmodified opinion. Right after the opinion is a section called the management's discussion analysis. And I know not every board member wants to read these couple 100-page long financial statements, but I do encourage every board member to at least read the management's discussion analysis. It's about 15 or so pages long. It does a nice job of comparing the current year to the prior year. There's some nice pie charts in there. For example, it'll show 45% of your revenue comes from property taxes, and then you'll see most of the rest of that comes from grants. And then it shows, where's your money going in a pie chart. And obviously, majority of your money is going back to educating and caring for students. So anyway, I would encourage you to at least read that document. Once we get into the basic financial statements or the meat of the financial statements, I won't talk about a lot of the detail in there, but on one page there's called a statement of net position, and it's just one column. And it's where we take all the funds that you're used to seeing on a monthly basis, and we put them into one column, and then we put other information on there that you're not used to seeing regularly, like your capital assets, your buildings, your vehicles, things like that. And we also put on there all of your long-term debt, for example, the bonds you were just talking about, along with net pension liabilities and net other post-employment benefit liabilities. Again, things you only see once a year in the annual audit. So just to give you an idea, because pensions always seem to be a hot topic here in Illinois, you're in two pension funds, IMRF and the Teachers Retirement Fund. Your net pension liability as of the end of the fiscal year was $22.6 million, which is relatively small given the number of employees you have. That's because most of the liability for TRS is held by the state of Illinois, not by local school districts. Your other post-employment benefit liability, which is mainly paying for health care or subsidized health care for retirees, was $31.2 million as of the end of the fiscal year as well. So just to give you an idea, some of those numbers that you don't typically see. Once you get into a couple schedules later, you'll start to see the funds that you typically see in your board repack, education fund, transportation fund, things like that. I will point out that the general fund is made up of your education fund and your working cash fund put together, which is a little different from how you typically look at that, but for external financial reporting purposes, we're required to put those together. Your transportation fund did go into a deficit position for the year because you've been deficit spending out of that fund for the last 2 years. So as of the end of fiscal year 23, you actually went into a negative fund balance position. And I know at the Finance Committee meeting that was talked about ways to remedy that in the future. I do also want to point out that in the annual financial report that is given to the State Board of Education, there's a ranking. They rank all school districts based upon a numeric ranking of 5 different attributes, and you're in the review stage. Recognition is right above that, and there's also 2 stages right below that. So I say that by historical comparison, you've moved up in the world, if you will, from where you were a few years ago. So, I want to make sure we recognize the improvements in your financial health that you've seen there over the years. Also in conjunction with their audit, we do provide some recommendations on internal control improvements. The purpose of the audit is not to provide an opinion on your internal controls, but we do kind of kick the tires on them, if you will, as we plan our audit. I'm happy to say that we didn't add any new additional recommendations this year. There do continue to be a couple that we've recommended in the past. And the report only points out the recommendations. We don't point out all the other great controls that are going on a regular basis. The mechanism is really only to report the recommendations that we'd like to see. So again, we didn't add anything to that, and I know we've talked with management about ways they're planning on addressing those over the coming months and years as it might be. So I know that was brief and that was relatively high level, but that really is the end of my formal remarks, but I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have.
So one of the things that we discussed was that kind of that we're in the review stage, and then so when I heard review stage, I'm thinking, oh, that's not good, but it's actually the second best possible.
Right,
so
right.
We've gotten a lot better
Exactly.
at that. And the reason that we're still in review stage for the most part is because of that long-term debt.
Right,
Relative
right.
to our district size and all that stuff. So.
Right, the different categories, 4 being is the highest and 1 being the lowest. You're in 3s and 4s in 4 of the categories, and then long-term debt ratio, you're at a 1. Largely because of the fact of you're over the statutory limit because you got special approval to issue so much debt in the past. And obviously, long-term debt carries with you for a long time by its nature, and so that you continue to, the mechanism there comes out at a 1 for you.
So I was kind of surprised that our cash balance was in a 3 or 4. So our net position at the end of every year or whatever, at the end of last year got us a 3 or 4, whatever it was. I don't know, is that because it's improving, or is it because of the whole number? You think that we got a 3 or 4 on that?
Well, I haven't looked at historical trends on that, but I would say it's probably been improving over the years because I know it wasn't not too long ago you were in watching or even a warning stage. So I believe it's.
Yeah, a couple of things that's helped us. One is that we have been paying down our debt.
That's right.
And we started back in '06 with 450 million. And the last time I checked, we've gone down to about 386. That's a
We're
substantial
still at
amount.
a 1, though.
Yeah, that's a substantial amount.
That's why I was,
And then if you go out to about 2030, we'll be pretty much almost done with it. So we go from about 37 million that we pay right now to about 17 million. And by the time you get to 2036, we'll be out of.
I
done.
think there's a historical piece here too, that when that legislation was passed specifically so that this district could do something with the amount of growth we were having, it's not like it was financially recommended to do what we did. It was a matter of desperation, right? And so one of the pieces that I hear and I think is always important from the historical standpoint is in 2019, we had the nice bright lights, right? And we were sitting on a stage at OE. We knew that there was going to be pain, and we knew that pain was going to be, I don't want to say long-term, but it wasn't going to just be over like that. And, I mean, we got a room full of educators to tell you what pain looks like from those cuts, right? And so but we also knew that going through that pain would improve us over time. And I think that that's the historical piece, that it's good to hear this, but like kind of some of it I'm not surprised, because that's why we did some of the tragic things that we did. And the debt continues to hang over us.
I think the other thing, we did a lot of discussion in our Finance and Facilities Committee about our transportation department, and I think that it's really important, Raphael, if you could, to share with the board how, due to this is the second year in a row that we've spent more than we've brought in with regards to transportation, kind of how you're reimagining the transportation department, and I think it's important for the board to see that we do need to cut some expenses there, and how you're taking that on.
So transportation, as it stands right now, is a sick child of the district. The last few years, we've lost significant amount of money, which means that we actually spend more money than we take in. And I think the situation is unique to us because of the configuration of the district. We're a big district. We cover 68 square miles. So there's no public transportation to speak of. So a lot of our children rely on transportation to move them around. And we've not always done a good job with efficiency and with the way we manage transportation, and with the fact that if we don't change the way that we run transportation, it will be something that will get us in trouble. So what we're looking at a number of things to try to right-size transportation. One is we're looking at how to do routing, to do it more efficiently. We're also looking at the way we lease buses and make sure that we optimize that. So we need to make sure that any expenditure that we have related to transportation, we're thoughtful about it, with the people, with the process. Those are things that we're looking at to make sure that we need to wring as much efficiency from the transportation system as possible. It's not a choice, it's something we absolutely have to do. Because of all the funds that we have, as it stands right now, that's the most critical area where we're bleeding money.
Thank you, Raphael.
Can I ask a question about that? When you were talking about efficiencies and so forth, if I look at a map of our school district, there's probably two schools that actually have any kind of growth that are actually north of those schools. The vast majority of the growth in this district is going to occur south of the vast majority of our schools. And I'm curious, and listen, I don't need an answer right now for sure, but one thing that I want to place in the back of our mind is to always be forward thinking, think long-term, big picture. And so when the district grows out, it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens if our student populations shift further south and our schools are all built up here, and what that will mean for transportation.
It's very interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again for your due
Can I
diligence.
ask one
Oh,
more
please.
point? One more point, sorry. I'm going to assume that the whole reason that the state requires this is for transparency purposes, correct? One of the reasons,
I
not
mean,
the
that's
only
one of the
reason.
reasons, yeah. I mean, again, not only do school districts require audits, but most governments in Illinois, except for the very smallest ones. I mean, largely because you're holding and spending and receiving public funds, it's good to make sure that the numbers you're presenting to the public are accurate, and that's our job. So.
100%.
And related to that too, Gerald, if you remember, Mr. Lewis from PMA just said something about refunding. The investors also rely on it because it gives them an idea how financially where the district is with the financial statements that is independently audited as opposed to something that we generate internally.
My purpose in asking is from time to time, we will have comments that will come in about the financial transparency of the school district. So I would invite anyone to, I mean, it's a very extensive report, it's very long. This would be one of the reports to read for those who believe there's not transparency out there. I would welcome anyone out there to take a look, take a gander.
In fact, you have quite a bit of information in the back of your financial statements that you're not actually required to have there. It's 10 years worth of historical trend information, which is, can be great for the public, but frankly, can be great for you board members as well to have that very handy, that 10-year trend information. You can see what's happened quickly over the past year. So.
We even asked multiple times in multiple different ways the other night, what could we do better? What were their problems? Did you find a lot of issues? And you continued to say, nope, you guys are doing a great job. And whenever you audit, as someone who has been in that position before, the auditors come in, they bring their crew in, and they do what's called field work, and they literally are asking you for documents that you have to provide. Their job is to find things. That is their job. You're never going to be perfect, but you were very positive about everything that was found. And so to what Jared said, there have been recent comments in local social media that were very upsetting as a board member, that we cook our books or, we're constantly doing things that are inappropriate. And this is the best way to, from an independent third party, to see exactly what's being done.
And I'll make this quick, but I think the frustration level I get, right? I get the frustration level. Why are we spending at this amount and we see this as the final product? I totally get it, but it's why I wanted to really talk about the history of the debt, because that debt hangs over and looms over. And so without it, it would be a very different picture, if you will, and things would look very different without it.
But to your point, Jerry, there will be no way to accommodate the growth that happened in the early 2000s, because 12 schools were built, transportation facility were built, and there's not enough money in the budget, which is why you do a referendum that allows you to go out and borrow beyond the regular budget. So there was no way to get the resources to be able to do the development required in 2006, 2007, that without, that's what those laws are for, the referendum for bond increase.
And I just, this is quick. We do, even though we are transparent, we do have plans to become even more transparent with the budgeting process and all that. So it's not that we're definitely looking to improve even. So.
To that,
Thank you.
Mr. Obafemi has continued to put everything that we're doing from a finance
yes,
perspective on
yes.
our website. We are so grateful. Thank you. It's something we've been asking for a long time, so that the community can follow exactly what the Finance and Facilities Committee is doing. And the documents that we walk through in these board meetings are now online as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Kudos to both your teams,
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Zwemke and Mr. Obafemi, for your due diligence. This evening, we also want to welcome, thank you again
Thank you.
from Baker Tilly. Thank you. Next, we have, want to invite Charlie Johnso from Kluber Associates to speak regarding the Health Life Safety Survey for our high schools. And Bill Queen, will you be joining us?
All right. Good evening, everyone. This is our 10-year life safety survey. This is phase one. This is required by ISB for us to complete and present to the board. Charlie, would you take it away?
I will. This is, as Mr. Green mentioned, it's a requirement. This is the third time the district has gone through this, and the first time you did it, there were only 6 buildings. So now you have 22 academic buildings. An academic building for ISB houses students. We decided last year to split up the survey because 10 years ago, 2017, we did all 22 buildings. It was a huge burden on you from a financial perspective to pay us to do that survey. Also from an implementation process of even being able to do the violations that showed up. So we recommended breaking it up into 3 parts. ISB in its wisdom said that's great, but you have to get everything done by the 10 years. So that's why we're starting early. So if it sounds like 2017 and it's not 10 years later, you're right. It's not. So we did start that. I'm going to kind of go fairly quickly. We broke it up into 3 phases, the high schools, junior highs, and elementary and lower. That roughly is about 1 million square feet per grade level, per those groupings. We just finished the high schools last summer. We have 2 high schools, roughly 700,000 square feet, and 5,000 students. The main point on this slide is the 3 levels. You've got urgent, which means it has to happen within the first year, the remediations. Required means they need to happen within the next 5 years. And recommended, quite frankly, ISB doesn't really care about unless you're asking for funding on it, which your district is not. We've also migrated all of these elements to your envision plan so that your buildings and grounds folks are looking at one place for information. So mission critical and urgent align, corrective maintenance and required align, and required kind of fall in a little bit of both, preventative maintenance, corrective maintenance, et cetera. These are the documentations that come out of the report. The item at the very top is the schedule of violations. You don't see that with the exception of this format because when it goes in ISB, it's entered line by line with a value in it. They require the health, life, safety, what are called safety reference plans, which are literally the plans of the buildings. And then the safety reference documents reference all the buildings, the years they were built, the codes they were built under, and the requirements they're required to stay current with. And then the 4th document over there is its alignment with your current planning. The only thing I want to highlight here is those pieces that Kluber does that are independent of code. Everything in the not bolded is what the code requires we do. But in addition to that, we also are going to take, after tonight, we're going to take the document that we've put together, take it over to your regional office of education, review it with them, because as soon as we input it into the IWAS system, it's electronic. They'll see it, but they'll have pre-seen it, so then they'll go through it fairly quickly, get it sent down to ISB, and get their approval on it as well. We went through that. Key points from this past year's survey is, again, it was just the high schools. Your facilities are generally in really good condition. That's kudos to Bill Queen and his staff. Certain elements cannot show up on a 10-year survey, like new air conditioning systems or sprinklers. They're very typical. These things are related to code violations under the codes in which the buildings were built. And then priority C recommended items completely were removed from the survey because the buildings and grounds staff said we can take care of those pieces, or we want to get them in our plan and we'll work them in a different way because they're recommended. They're not required. We want to focus on what the state sees as required, and we'll get through those. And again, priority A's and B's were also put into the plan so that there were one place for all that information. The next steps for buildings and grounds and Kluber is to go through that and separate out building management components, things that will absolutely be done internally, and those things that have to become capital projects. The other findings that came out of the summary is approximately $600,000 over the next 5 years, because again, we're focusing on urgent and required. 150,000 roughly for A priorities, and 425,000 for B priorities. And again, those documents, the schedule of violations after today, I'm going to review it with ROE, get those in for the next meeting in February, when you'll actually approve sign off on this. Again, the upper bar, as we progress through this process, so next summer, you'll see that grow. It'll have all the junior high schools in it, and you'll see all the monies, but we'll also see it being pared down as Bill and his staff start knocking off those items required. And again, it resides in two places, here and in your envision work. I did that very fast, so if you have any questions, it was a lot more in-depth for the Facility and Finance Committee, so just ask them. They know as much as I do.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have to go over anything from the Finance Committee
No, just
later on
that-
today, because we just heard pretty much the whole meeting. One thing I think the board should probably hear is why aren't we looking for funds for life and safety? Because you said because we're not looking for funds.
So the way life safety work is, the way levy life safety funds that Mr. Saron referred to, is all part of the levy. There are a number of funds in the levy, the ed fund being the largest. It's also the most flexible. So if you levy in life safety, that doesn't mean you get more money. What it does is it limits what you can use that money for. And since in the district we have to be very careful about how we spend money, we made the decision not to levy specifically in life safety, to levy it in ed fund. So that gives us more flexibility on what we can use it for. We can use the money, we can transfer it to do the work that needs to be done into O&M. We can levy in O&M, but we don't want to levy in life safety if we need the money for somewhere else. So that's why we don't levy for life safety. Just to be clear, levying for life safety doesn't give you any additional funds. You still can only levy so much. But if you levy in life safety, it kind of locks you in to using it for life safety. And we always want to have flexibility, especially since our cash flow is so tight.
It makes it very restrictive if we
Yes.
do that. So I think the other thing, and Charlie went over this really quick at the beginning, is that we still have to meet the 2027 deadline. All 22 buildings have to be done. We focused on high school, next will be junior highs, then the elementaries. And then the only other thing that I thought was just interesting for the board is that issues are reviewed against the code at which the time was built, not necessarily the current code. So I just thought that was interesting to share.
One piece I just want to clarify. So as I see that, you can help me if I'm looking at this correctly. So as I look at the price tag, it says roughly there's about 500,000, $500,000 roughly, improvements that basically we have to make when it comes to the high schools. So I think sometimes it's easy for us to, when I say we, the proverbial we, it's easy for us to, or I guess I said us, not we, but anyways, to focus on something that we feel like is needed, that's an addition to one of these high schools and so forth. But I think it's important for us to realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, that stuff has to get done, right? And so when somebody says something like, well, it's 100,000 or it's 78,000 for something to the high school, one of the high schools, I don't think all the time that we're realizing, well, but there's also $500,000 worth of things that we have to do. And so I think that's the piece sometimes that gets lost. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on anything I've said. Trust me, it won't bother me. But I know there's some things out there that people would like to see done to the high school specifically, myself included. But I think we have to realize that that stuff has to get done.
And the interesting, you're absolutely right. The interesting thing is it grows every day. This is a snapshot. It's a picture in time. We know every building degrades every hour. So this is just a snapshot. So to your point, it grows every day. It's 500,000 then, but it's growing.
It doesn't include things like roofs or other things that we have to get done, you know, it's just not part of life and safety.
But I
Capital
do,
costs, that's all.
but I do want to make the understanding that while this is health, life, and safety, the other thing we talk about in finance and facility is all of the projects that we would love to see done, the things that are aspirational and the things that are going to have to be done. We just may not necessarily are able to do them right now. So while we have added turf, you know, to the football fields, those are things that have been asked for. We have all of that is being documented and talked about. This is very separate from that, in that this is something we have to do. It is be related, and that it is separate, but it's also, this is, the health, life, and safety is also part of our bigger plan as well. So there's all these kind of competing parts working together.
There's a reason it's called health, life, and safety.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for your due diligence and
Thank
your
you.
team for the work you've done.
Thank you,
Charlie.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Everybody get home safely.
Speaking of health, life, and safety.
And that binder right there, that binder right there is the small binder.
Out there, so
Yes, yes.
I know that our lots of stuff.
Well, good evening. I want to welcome now Faith Dahlquist, Tammy Harmon, and Shannon Luters. We're thrilled with the participation this evening. I know we've got lots of educators with us this evening as well, and so we look forward to hearing from you. And this has been a labor of love and hard work to really bring us to this point. So thank you.
VIPs.
VIPs.
Yes.
We have VIPs in the house.
Yes, for those of you that are tuning in from home.
How about now? There we go.
There we
For those of you tuning in at home, you cannot see the powerhouse of staff
Yes.
behind me.
Yes, yes.
Behind me, well, we can applause before they ever
Yes.
Sure. Woo-hoo! So the amount
Wait till
of
how much it is.
passion and innovation and expertise behind me is truly amazing. I'm not going to talk because the voices of all these people can much better tell the story than I can. I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Harmon and Shannon Luters, and we will talk about the new possibilities for ELA in both elementary and junior high.
Good evening, and thank you for having us tonight. I am very excited to introduce our team this evening who have worked the last year together, and they have really stretched themselves and shown their expertise and their dedication to this work as a unit. The individuals here this evening represent a larger group of about 50 people who have done this work at elementary for the past year together, and at junior high a little bit longer. So we are going to let them share their journey this evening with you.
And so just one change, actually two changes for junior high staff presenting tonight. Kelly Waldron is unable to be here with us, but we have Jill Bean from Plank Junior High joining us tonight. And we are, as Dr. Harmon said, so thankful for the work that all of these folks have done. I especially would like to say thank you to Stephanie Passarelli, our secondary instructional coach, who has really taken a leadership role in finding this new resource for us. All right, so both elementary and junior high follow a very similar process in terms of getting to where we are tonight. We first determine that we have a need for a new resource. We go through and do a lot of research in terms of the types of things that we want to make sure, and some of our teachers will talk a little bit about our criteria very shortly. But we also do, at our level, budgeting. So the budgeting that we have for this year, we allocated last year, so a year ago. In preparation for this. So then we reach out to our teachers and ask them if they would be willing to help us and pilot resources, and then serve on the curriculum teams. And then we get to the point of pilots. We make a recommendation within our teams, and then we bring it to all of you for information, and then we'll come back to you in February for approval, hopefully.
The criteria that we developed in choosing a new resource was very thorough. It was important to the committee to find a resource that not only aligned to our SD308 literacy framework, but also our equity statements.
Would you mind introducing yourself just for
course.
context?
I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
so everybody
Erica
can.
Crone. I'm 4th grade at Grand Park Elementary. Equally important, we felt it was important for our new resource to meet all the needs of each demographic group within our district, as well as offering a variety of assessment and differentiation opportunities. And when we evaluated both pilots, this was the criteria that was used to evaluate.
Heather Mayer, 1st grade at Huncomb. Our committees were made up of every grade level from every elementary school. Kindergarten through 5th grade, we had teachers piloting, including special education, EL, and dual language. Every elementary building's instructional coach was also a part of our team with our pilots.
So for 6th through 8th grade, our ELA pilot included not only classroom teachers, but also any co-teachers, so special education and or other English teachers that were co-teaching in that classroom. We represented all of our schools, all of our grade levels, special education, as I mentioned, as well as our sheltered English instruction classrooms.
Good evening. I'm Megan Mann. I'm the instructional coach at Southbury Elementary. And if you can picture that long list of elementary teachers, put them all in one room and ask them, what are you passionate about for our reading and writing, curriculum resource? I mean, you can imagine the energy and passion that was in that room. I want to thank our leadership for honoring the fact that that conversation needed to happen as this whole process started. There was a lot of passion, a lot of ideas. We whittled them down to this list right here. Right at the beginning, you see a love of reading and writing. You can imagine that was so important to every person in that room. We not only want them to be able to do it really well, but we want them to love it, and we think that can go hand in hand. And then we know that it needs to be systematic. It needs to be very explicitly taught. That there's opportunity for collaboration throughout all instructional areas, and that we can differentiate for our students, all of the students that are in our classroom. So we are excited to share more about that tonight, and just again want to thank our leadership for letting us develop this statement.
Hi, I'm Nicole Watson, the instructional coach over at Long Beach Elementary. Over the past year and a half, there's been extensive professional development done with all elementary teachers around the district with the adopted literacy framework. It was important to the committee that the resource we chose closely aligned with our framework and all of its components.
Hi, I'm Anna Gibson. I'm the instructional coach at Old Post. First, all of us would like to thank the committee that sat in these chairs 8 years ago and adopted our current curriculum, ReadyGen. They did an outstanding job. My job right now is to tell you why we need a new curriculum. So we know that phonics and foundational skills need to build on each other, and our current curriculum does not have the rigor that we need to teach these skills for automaticity and mastery. We also need differentiated instruction resources that are built into the program, where a teacher can easily access the content. And this is very difficult in our current program because the resources are lacking or not available. Assessments, both formative and summative, are too narrow in scope, and it makes it difficult when teachers want to use assessments to drive their instruction. For our dual and English language learners, their resources are inequitable. And for all of our students, we need a variety of texts that include diverse characters, authors, in which our students' customs and cultures are authentically embedded. And ReadyGen, which we have right now, has some, but definitely not enough. And the last reason is our current one, ReadyGen, is being discontinued. So.
Hi, I'm Joan Munsinger. I'm the instructional coach at Fox Chase.
My slides are the data slides, so you can see, and I know you've done a ton of work with data, but our last year Illinois Assessment of Readiness in ELA is on this first slide, and so areas of green and then dark green are our meets and exceeds. So currently, or within the last year when we gave it, we had 34% in third grade, 39% in fourth grade, and 42% in fifth grade that were in that meets or exceeds category. And so we have some work to do. We definitely have some areas that we can work to improve. In addition, you see now our different demographics over time. The last 4 years of data is here in giving the IAR. So as you look at this data, we don't have any data from 2020 because of the pandemic year. We didn't give the assessment that year. But in all other data cycles, it looks like our data really stays stagnant or declines in some areas. There's also quite a bit of opportunity gap between several of the demographic subgroups that are there. So knowing that, we know we have some things that we need to change from what we're doing right now. And so tonight you're going to hear more of my colleagues talk about different ways that this recommended curriculum may be able to overcome some of those opportunity gaps and provide some diversity and differentiation for our students.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Fehrenbacher, second grade dual language at Boulder Hill. Before we get into the good stuff of the curriculum, this is just an overview of our pilot and decision process, which began last January when the committee first came together. Our initial tasks were to critically analyze our current needs and explore the available resources that would fill those gaps while still aligning to our district's literacy framework that you saw before me. The committee explored several options and had narrowed it down to 2 resources, which all the teachers from the committee piloted for the first half of this school year. After that, we came together to collect data and give our feedback from the 2 pilots in order to make our final decision.
Good evening. My name is Luann Girth, and I'm the instructional coach at Homestead. So we wanted to tell you a little bit about the process. We started with 18 resources to consider for us to pilot, which was a lot. But we eliminated any that did not have a comprehensive program or that was available in Spanish. It needed to center around current practice and research, and meeting all the needs based on our ReadyGen review and the things that we felt were lacking. So once we eliminated programs, we whittled it down to 4. And then we had a presentation last spring from 4 different companies and kind of got a chance to take a look at all the parts that they were offering. And we created a rubric that the ELA committee used. And once we walked through that rubric, we whittled it down to the 2 that were mentioned. The first one was the Haute Mifflin Harcourt into reading and Arriba la Lectura. How'd I do? And so we spent the first part of this fall going through that pilot. And then after that, we took a look at the Benchmark Advance and Adelante program. And the side's a little hard to see, but it had a lot of different components. Both of them did. And so we spent the second part of the first semester getting to go into the classrooms and pilot those. It was really fun for us as instructional coaches to be able to work alongside of the classroom teachers and really get our elbows into it and get to know both of these programs before we came to our big decision.
My name is Mahia Patel. I'm a 4th grade dual language teacher at Hunt Club. And for the moment that we've been waiting for, after piloting both of these programs in the first half of the school year, Benchmark was the selected curriculum. And Benchmark was selected because it has a wide range of resources, including texts featuring diverse authors and characters, again, features that we were looking for. It provides explicit phonics and foundational skills instruction. It gives us the ability to differentiate instruction for our monolingual students, dual language students, English learners, and special education students. It is user-friendly for teachers and for students. It has high-quality, accessible dual language resources that have actually promoted some enriching classroom discussions for us. And it is developmentally appropriate at each grade level while also including units that build on each other at each grade level, creating continuity for students and more opportunities for collaboration for teachers.
Hi, Allie Anderson, Avid Elementary. Also, when we were coming to the decision, we did have those that were on the ELA curriculum. Oh, I piloted at Hung Club in 5th grade too, I helped. We had them complete a survey. So we went through our first pilot, we gave out a survey so we could have both quantitative and qualitative data. At the end, 31 of those participating completed the survey. Then we did the same for benchmark. We had 35 responses for that. And then on the very last day, we kind of met. So we knew where everyone was thinking, and then we went over our priorities and said, okay, now knowing that and what we know what's going to help most impact our students, meeting our framework and is what we're desiring from what we're not currently having, we gave a final survey and said, what is your decision? And 45 people completed that. So we were really, really happy with those results. And pilot in action, best part, right? These are our kiddos, and they are doing all things ELA and HMH, benchmark and HMH. The bottom pictures, you notice that there was a guest teacher. Benchmark provided opportunities for someone who used to teach benchmark and now works for them to come out and model lessons and then have a debrief afterwards so we could ask them all the questions and really ask her about her experience as a teacher with it also, which was fantastic.
Hi, Erin Gleason, Language Acquisition Instructional Coach. As Allie said, we collected our quantitative data, but we also collected qualitative data. Some of the highlights around that were those first grade and kindergarten teachers really did love that systematic phonics, saw a lot of growth already in their students in the short time that we were using benchmark, which was fantastic. Our SEI classroom found the materials for their English learners to be such great scaffolds and such great language supports that the students were able to actively participate. Some of the topics that are discussed within benchmark are far more sophisticated than the students have had exposure to before, and we're able to bring up a lot of diversity and equity conversations as early as kindergarten and first grade, which is amazing, and that builds on each other as they go up through the grades. And then our dual language classrooms, as we said, a big concern was ReadyGen wasn't completely equitable between our English classes and our dual language classes, and this is a lot more equitable. The resources are more consistent, and it gives our dual language teachers a chance to collaborate a lot more with the monolingual teachers.
That's awesome.
Hi, I'm Heather Kraus. I teach 6th grade language arts at Bednarsik Junior High, and I also teach in the intervention ELA class as well. So we're going to segue into the junior high portion of the presentation tonight, and starting obviously with a need for a new resource at the ELA, junior high ELA level. You'll hear similarities to what the elementary said. Our current resource, Springboard, we adopted back in 2015. We have found over the years, as we have adopted our literacy framework, our K-8 framework, that Springboard is not necessarily meeting our needs as our framework has identified. Our current resource of Springboard is not really balanced in all the areas of literacy that we focus on. It is primarily focused heavily on the writing product, but not the process. So that's something that we feel is lacking in the current resource. It does not have an embedded SEL portion, so that again is not meeting the needs of our learners and our teachers as well. It does not have contemporary texts and many contemporary texts. There are some, but not many. And the formats that reflect our diverse student population. And as we grow as a community, as a district, we need to have a resource that will grow with us. And then we found out recently that Springboard is being discontinued after the 24-25 school year. So just hence the need to get moving on this. Good thing we were ahead of the game.
All right, so very similar to the comments that Joan made about the data from elementary school. The green represents our students who are meeting and exceeding from last spring's IAR assessment. And we are approaching the 50% of our students meeting and exceeding, but we definitely want to continue to grow and grow and grow. And then the next slide then also represents some of those opportunity gaps within our demographic groups, all leading to a need for, as Dr. Kraus mentioned, the diverse texts, items that our students can relate to and see themselves in.
Hi, I'm Maggie Sadler, 8th grade ELA at Bednarsik Junior High. This is our K-8 literacy framework. It was mentioned with the elementary portion of the presentation as well, but does represent the expected breakdown of balanced literacy within our ELA classroom instruction. And Springboard did not include resources that supported all of these different aspects of the framework and the instruction that was needed. So the chosen resource that we're asking to be approved, it offered more resources, it offers flexibility in the modality of the instruction being used within the classroom. It allows for the flexibility within pacing to meet the needs of all levels of learners while continuing to maintain the integrity of the framework within our district.
And I'm Stephanie Passarelli. I'm one of the instructional coaches at the junior high level. I'm going to talk a little bit about the pilot and the decision process, which is very similar to what the elementary teachers just shared with you. In January of 2023, the district team began researching potential ELA resources. In April of 2023, we brought 3 potential resources to the pilot team, who evaluated each resource using the district rubric. The rubric results determined that Amplify ELA and HMH into Literature would be the 2 resources that we would pilot in the fall of 2023. In August of last year, 2023, the pilot team was trained by HMH and they began the Into Literature pilot. We were given plenty of support from HMH, and we were able to have some virtual meetings with them for that support as well. In the beginning of October, the Amplify team came in and they trained us for the next pilot. We did begin the pilot. However, we quickly realized that we were missing an entire group of our students. The EL population, specifically the sheltered EL population at Murphy, was not getting what they needed from this resource. We needed plenty of accommodations, so we did work with our tech team and with Amplify's team. However, we were unable to come to any kind of solution for the problems that we were having. So in November, we met as a team, and again, we brought the team 2 more resources to look at. And the team ultimately decided, again, looking at those rubrics that the district had created, that we just wanted to move forward with HMH into Literature. And so we then brought the resources to our ELA team, content team, district-wide, and we provided them with links and surveys so that they would be able to look through the different resources that we had already looked through. We asked for feedback from our ELA department, and ultimately the decision was made for all of us to move forward with HMH into Literature.
There was a virtual question and answer opportunity for our ELA content team in December, and here we are today.
Hello again. As Stephanie was just mentioning, when we were trying to determine, we kind of came to a crossroads. So during this pilot process, when we said amplify, the pilot pitch was not reflective of what we thought, and it was not meeting our entire student population. So as Stephanie said, we did reach out, and we wanted feedback from our language arts committee at the junior high level, everybody, all teachers, to get their guidance and help make sure everybody had a voice in this process. So what you see on this screen was the survey that we reached out to determine whether we should proceed with recommending HMH into literature, or if we should proceed, and continue with that, or if we should still proceed with piloting the Amplify ELA curriculum. So you can see the results here, a resounding support on the fact that they wanted and encouraged us to move ahead with the HMH into literature recommendation and not to move with Amplify. And then the teacher feedback from that data, again, just trying to assess the needs of our teachers and our students, but more so, on the left is the students' needs, and does HMH meet our students' needs? And there was a resounding agree and strongly agree, which you see when the 4 and 5s on the side. And then with the Amplify, did they feel Amplify ELA appeared to meet the needs of our students and teachers in the district? And you'll see that no, it did not at all. So that helped us make the decision on our recommendation.
Along the way, our pilot team, I think I probably over-surveyed them, but these are some of the responses that they gave us with regard to the range of resources that HMH into literature has available and the positive ways that HMH will work for the students and the teachers in our district. And then most importantly, our students who were part of the pilot, there were 454 students who were part of our pilot. They were surveyed, and these are their words. Just wanted to point that out. These are their words. We wanted to share their authentic voice and opinions, and we really felt encouraged by the feedback that our students gave us. And again, with that student feedback, we asked our kids, have you been reading enough? Have you been writing enough? And they felt as though they were being asked to read and write just the right amount. So we wanted to share that with you as well.
Hi, I'm Julie Velasco. I co-teach 6th grade ELA and also 7th and 8th grade Direct 1 ELA. So we're going to talk a little bit about the differentiation options that HMH provides. As a lot of us know, we have a lot of experience and are pretty comfortable when it comes to differentiation. But one of the things I absolutely loved about this program is that if I was stuck or what I had usually done to help my students and it wasn't working, I had options, and it gave me options right there in our program. So one of the things that I loved, again, having Direct 1 ELA, this is a special education class, so we all start with one mentor text, and then I have options to meet my students where they're at. So I have ample amount of data that says, hey, this is their average lexile, and I can pick and choose what text can support that mentor text and still come out with the same writing end result as like what is going on essentially in our gen ed population.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about the reading opportunities that are provided with the HMH resource. The variety of genres and formats, the different titles, diverse authors, our short and long reads, and those can all be accessed through whole class instruction or with independent reading and offering students choice. And then the bottom part, the focus on notice and note. This is a very popular research-based resource that supports comprehension. It is a resource that's used by many, many teachers within our district. But with it implemented into this resource, we're really excited that that will be something that all of our students are receiving and maintaining that consistency across our junior high ELA classrooms. And then with our writing opportunities, we are super excited about a program called Writable that is paired with HMH. And this is a extensive web-based writing program that allows students to do writing, get immediate feedback. It's very teacher-friendly with a dashboard available for teachers to support students at their level in the moment with what they need, and where it doesn't look any different for a student on one computer to the next, but they're receiving the supports that they need to access the information and the skills needed for their level. It provides skill ladders, which help to scaffold the skills that students will need for those end-of-unit writing tasks. It offers mentor texts, and overall it's just really user-friendly. And with both the reading and the writing opportunities provided, there are just so many resources. So coming from a resource where we had such very limited options, at first it's almost overwhelming, and that's a conversation that we've been having, is how we're going to best support our teachers in looking at these options that are available and how they can be used and how it's going to fit within their classroom and how it can fit into our literacy framework. But all in all, it's amazing to have these options at our fingertips.
Social emotional learning is also included in the HMH resource. Every unit provides social emotional learning opportunities for students to connect with the topics, texts, or themes that they've encountered in class. For example, in one of our 6th grade pilot classrooms, students read an excerpt from Jacqueline Woodson's memoir, Brown Girl Dreaming, and then they worked in stations to analyze the feelings that the author expresses. Then they worked together to develop self-awareness by listing important events and memories in their own lives.
Hi, I'm Jill Bean. I'm 7th Honors ELA and 8th grade ELA at Plank. I'm going to talk about assessment, and the assessment actually helps support all of the reading and writing opportunities that seem a little overwhelming. So we currently have FastBridge assessment, and the HMH growth measure is similar, but it's adaptive. So it levels up and down until it finds the student's level. Gives us a really clear picture of their strengths and their weaknesses. And the really amazing thing about it is the report being so user-friendly, you can dial it down by standard and click into the standard, and it'll tell you where the students are performing. And then even better, to help address the great problem of having so many resources, it will show you literally every spot you can touch that standard throughout the entire curriculum and all the resource opportunities. It's kind of fantastic.
With family engagement, Laura Bingham, principal at Murphy Junior High. One of the things with family engagement, one of the things our families have shared is that they wanted to know how they can help support their students at home. In this resource, each unit includes letters that describe the theme of the unit, the texts that the students will be reading, and the tasks and skills that the students would be working on. The letters are editable and available in multiple different languages, which is helpful for Murphy because we house the SAI program among the other buildings, but that was one of the biggest things that we were really looking forward to. And this will help support family engagement and assist in the facilitating the academic conversations at home and kind of bridging that gap, I guess, between home and school.
Another great resource inside HMH is the technology. Springboard is kind of a giant PDF put on a platform saying it's digital, and HMH is actually designed, it's designed with the digital world in mind. There's so many different resources. Each unit starts with an opening video that's very engaging, a poll to get the kids excited. There's vocabulary and grammar instructional activities, and then independent activities students can be assigned to work on their own or along with the teacher. There's peer coaching videos that are acted by students to make them relatable and engaging, and they're so cheesy, they're good even for the 8th graders to enjoy them. The videos really got their attention. And then each lesson, you have the option to listen to audio that is an authentic reader instead of a digitized voice. The audio is fantastic. And students can still annotate, as can teachers. In the digital platform, there's a reader highlight bar that will move with the reading to support our English language learners. And then also you can pull up the different texts in multiple languages, so that is helpful. And the AI tools are fantastic. Students can get immediate feedback multiple times, as many times as they want to click the button. It will keep generating new feedback. So as we are working with kids, they can still get feedback and not have to wait.
As we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, a variety of texts that reflect our student population was one of our most important needs at the junior high level. We found that the texts in HMH and literature reflect our diverse populations, and we also were very thankful for the significant amount of time and work that Michelle Simmons, one of our DEI TOSAs, put into reading all of the texts and providing support, collaboration, insight to our teachers and to our team. And we'll continue to do that throughout the, as we move forward.
Michelle did that for K-8. So she provided resources and extension activities for our teachers. Thank you, Michelle.
Very, very appreciated. If I could, before we talk about this budget slide, with Amplify, the concerns that we had, and Kelly Waldron is not here this evening, but as she was preparing for instruction in her SEI classroom, where she has, I believe, 19 different languages spoken by our students, it didn't translate for them. And when we had the original presentation, we were told that it would translate. And I would, and I know Kevin McDonald is here tonight, but the cooperation between Kevin and Kelly Waldron, they spent hours and hours trying to get this to work. But we could not, in good conscience, bring it forward if it's not going to meet the needs of all of our students. And so that's a little bit of the background in regards to Amplify and why we didn't want to move forward with that pilot. As I mentioned early on, we created budgets for our resource adoption a year ago, so February of 23. Elementary, Dr. Harmon budgeted $28,000 and change for the committee work, and then for materials and PD, $1.3 million. And then junior high, we budgeted $9,000 for the committee work, $800,000 for our materials, and then $30,000 for our professional development. We do have a quote in from Houghton Mifflin which is under our $800,000, and this is for materials $791,000 and some change, and that's a 5-year quote for digital and print materials, and it includes writable as well, and some professional development in there.
And we have a quote that comes in just under budget as well. The materials for elementary, the large staff that we have, just under 400 teachers, materials and resources, student materials and consumables make up that, as well as professional development, 18 professional development sessions with the benchmark group. Our next steps. So the resources will be available for public review for the next 30 days at the District Administration Center and online. At the February 26th board meeting, we will ask for your vote in support of our resources that we presented this evening. Our March 1st Institute Day, the junior high, is planning for that notice and note training that the teachers described. And then both of us, all K-8 teachers, language arts teachers, will have professional development during our April 25th Institute Day. We are working with our vendors to frame that professional development so our teachers can walk away with materials. And we know how teachers like to prep for their new year over the summer, and they will have what they need as far as that initial training before the end of this school year. And in May, we will, junior high specifically, will have some continued professional development with grade level meetings for planning. And we're going to begin elementary pretty soon here in February with planning the curriculum. So this is the resource that we've brought to you this evening, but our curriculum will outline assessments and any additional resources and support, just like we talked about Michelle Simmons and some other background building information. So the committee work is going to continue, and we're going to keep on working together to build a really robust curriculum for all of our language arts teachers at both levels. And during next school year, we'll have ongoing professional development for all our teachers. And of course, we want to monitor our data and the effectiveness that this is having on our students. What questions do you have?
First off, great work.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you.
work.
Can I piggyback that? Because in 2015, right before I was on the board, and you had mentioned the 2015, and I appreciate you thanking everybody who went through that, because this is a true story. I walk in, I wasn't on the board, I walk into the teaching and learning committee meeting, and they didn't even finish the presentation. They couldn't get through the entire presentation in the committee meeting. I remember talking to an ELA teacher outside, and it was certainly an eye-opening experience. And so I think kudos to everybody in the district for how far we've come in 8 years. And I remember them then rushing over here to the board meeting after not even completing the presentation. And I see you now, you remember that probably pretty well. I know that we definitely sent the wrong message that day. And so thank you, and thank you. And to everybody involved compared to what people went through 8 years ago.
I want to also piggyback, but just highlight, I think, what are some of the quality components of this process, aside from the obvious passion and dedication you all have. So just an inclusion of all the grade levels and the schools, the inclusion of the EL team and the dual language team in this work, I think, was really important and key to what will hopefully be a resounding success. Commitment to a resource that provides content to students in special education, or access to content to students in special education and students learning English, as well as our dual language students. Supports for SEL will go a long way to incorporate that into your daily work. Resources that align to our commitment to equity. And then I really enjoyed, when we talk about students being involved in the process, the opportunity for our junior high students to give feedback about those resources, I thought was a really good and quality addition to this process. 2 other comments. The resources are going to be available for public viewing, so a note to the public. That's for you. It's called public viewing for a purpose, so feel free, hopefully, and take advantage of the opportunity to look at those resources. And then the only other comment I have, and I think I made it at the committee meeting. I don't have a lot of questions because we heard this at our committee meeting as well, so I had some questions there. But I think I made this comment at the committee meeting. I know I talked with Dr. Kelgati about it, is that a resource is only as good as the professional development and time you have to utilize it and sift through it and things like that. So anything as a board that we can do to offer support, whether it's leveraging structures for collaboration, or to me the PD budget seems a little small. I'm just saying that too. So I would say count on us for support.
We're working on that.
To make that as successful as possible. So.
We don't give money very easily. So
Yeah.
we're
Right.
offering it up.
Well, when we're offering it, it's definitely for students. I'm just curious as to whether you all thought that the needs of junior high and elementary are so different that you would not choose the same source, is one of the questions. And then if you're not choosing the same source, do you feel like there can be that continuity in terms of transition from elementary to junior high, and what does that look like, and do you guys feel good about your choice and those two being good for our students as they transition from elementary to junior high?
Vertical articulation.
Vertical articulation?
Yeah, vertical articulation.
I learned something new today.
Yes,
Okay.
and I will let any of the teachers jump in, but we determine what to teach based on our state standards for ELA. As they have all talked about, this is a resource in order to deliver those standards. And so I am very confident in elementary having their priority standards and the things that they are teaching. We know that our students are coming in already prepared for junior high, and we expect that to continue because we do base what we teach on standards. These are just vehicles for our teachers to deliver those standards for our teachers, or for our students.
Yeah.
But I will.
Yeah, and in addition, the amount of conversation and learning and robust vocabulary that the students engaged in with Benchmark far surpassed what HMH was able to offer. And they highlighted the authentic texts for dual language students that Benchmark offers, which doesn't measure up to HMH for what elementary had. Some of the other strategies, I know junior high was really excited last time to hear close reading continues. Our students have consumables that they use, that they're doing close reading right in those texts, and they're taking their notes, and they were very excited about that component continuing for them in junior high as well. And as Ms. Luters mentioned, if anyone else has anything they'd like to say.
Pass the mic. Hold on one second. It's coming.
I'm the instructional coach at Southbury Elementary, and I would say teachers felt that both of our options were very good options. And when we went through all the charts and data that were given to us, I remember sitting there and making notes, and I'd be like, how'd they doing this? How'd they doing this? Checking. Both of them were strong, but slide 17, we particularly bullet pointed the areas where Benchmark surpassed HMH for elementary. So when you look at that slide, it was in diversity and variety of resources, the explicit phonics and foundational skills, differentiation, and availability for teachers to use with wide range of students, the ease of use, accessibility for dual language, and the developmental appropriateness. And I can speak to, summarizing happens in HMH and summarizing happens in Benchmark, and synthesizing information happens in both, and fiction and nonfiction and poetry and all of that was very well established in both. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And I think while you pass the mic, I just wanted to add quite a few of the people, well, trying to think percentage-wise, were part of a group 4 years ago that created our literacy framework, and we worked many, many, many hours on that. And the thought and the design behind that, we have our standards from the state of what we teach. We joked around a lot of what are the truths that we hold self-evident about literacy instruction. So we put that together, and those two things combined, really then we look for the tools of which we're going to do that. So that vertical articulation, what is important about reading instruction, we really, really worked on so that we would have that combined with our standards to go pick a tool. So the tool might be different from elementary to junior high, but what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to do that, there's great continuity in.
I want to,
Okay, because we have so many wonderful things to say, and everybody's like, oh, I have 18 answers for this, and so everybody wants to talk about it. Having read both HMH from K through 8 as well as Benchmark K through 5, well, one
She
point,
really did.
Benchmark doesn't exist 6 through 8, and from what I heard last time, it doesn't look like they have goals to make it exist, and so Benchmark's not available for the junior high. But Benchmark for the elementary aligns so well with not just ELA content when they move to junior high, but Benchmark really loops in a lot of science and social studies strands. And we know as elementary teachers that it is a struggle to get through science and social studies in the time that we have in our school day. And so if we're able to dabble in it through our reading skills, then it benefits not just ELA teachers in junior high, but also the social studies and the science teachers. And ultimately, we're gonna produce more equipped citizens who are ready to go into all these STEM science-y fields, as well as who understand histories of various people in our country, so they can go out into society and be more productive humans.
Nailed it.
Love it.
I have a comment and a question. I have a comment and a question, and the question is for Mr. Obafemi.
Hey,
like how I led with that. First of all, no, my comment is I think all of this is wonderful. I think you all did a tremendous amount of work. I think it's great. Both programs are great. Mr. Obafemi, are we good on funds for this?
Yes.
Okay, that's all
My
I need to know.
belief in budget and these programs drive budget.
Okay.
And we are in the education business.
Yes.
So nothing is more succinct with what we're doing than this ELA. So we will find the money to make it happen.
Okay.
Thank
Perfect. Thank you.
I just had one more comment about articulation. There was a kind of, and this is for make the board aware, there was a conversation about articulation with the high school as kind of a future step. And I know that Springboard is going to obviously be out of print, and high school is using Springboard as well. So this is a perfect time to really, enhance that articulation from middle school to high school as they think about a new resource as well.
And that has a lot to do with sharing of those priority standards. Many of the ELA teachers from junior high that are over there have over the years been on committees that have been 612 ELA committees that we have done a lot of work with the high schools prior to this. And that was more about ensuring Springboard articulation was happening. And so because they are continuing with Springboard, at least for next year, we will continue to work with them on what are your priority standards for each year, English 1, 2, 3, 4, and any other English classes that they're using. And then the fact that Dr. Harmon and Mr. Arnson and I share a same space, there is continual conversation.
Very close
we had a meeting
space.
on that
Very
today
close.
at 12 o'clock.
Yes. I think, did you want to say something?
Luann did.
So I was going to talk about the science and social studies connection.
Yes.
But the one thing that's really cool, and I'm a little bummed about this because I'm retiring, and so I'm not going to be here next year. But I'll come back
Dr.
to PD.
Zwebke?
Is the idea
Boy, I
that
know that.
across the
Work on
elementary
that.
school, everybody's going to be working on a similar theme.
That's
Like
awesome.
they're all starting with plants and animals at the beginning of the year, but each grade level gets more in depth with that theme. And so if we all think back to preschool and kindergarten, a lot of us learned by thematic learning and where you can connect so much together. And I was not a big proponent of Benchmark at the beginning. And, I think that's part of the power of this teamwork. But I'm really excited about the thematic learning for our students and what we can do school-wide as they're all working on similar themes. I think it's going to bring just a new light to our learning.
Yes, yes.
It's wonderful. Oh, please.
Did you want to go?
No, you go.
First of all, I just want to say that, a lot of people have asked me over the years why I ran for the board, and this is it right here. These are some of the people that I respect the most in the world. I know most of these people and these women and have such a deep respect for them, and it's because of the passion that they have. Literacy does in fact rock. And I also just want to say that Dr. Allen would be incredibly proud tonight. So I just want to ask a few questions. I'm very excited about this, but how do we ensure, because I was looking at the numbers for professional development, they look a little low to me. How do we ensure that teachers are implementing this to the best of their abilities? How are we going to support new teachers? Because it's very overwhelming when you start out as a new teacher. And then I'm really interested in this writable thing. So I just want to, if we could have a little bit more information about that.
Sure. So with respect to the PD, the 30,000 is for PD this year. We haven't even started budgeting for next
Okay.
year, so it's 30,000 for right now. And so that's through May, right? And so we will, as we are building budgets for next year and beyond, which I also am retiring, so will not be a part of. But you know, I am certain that there will be professional development. We will be utilizing Mrs. Passarelli as the person who goes into classrooms. She does this already, not just with ELA, but with science, social studies, even math. And so that is how we will support our newer teachers, is with a lot of PD, a lot of inside the classroom help.
Okay.
And a lot of work with their grade levels and some of those more veteran teachers.
Okay.
So
For elementary, just if I could add in, it was so important that each of our instructional coaches who are in the buildings piloted with a teacher in their building. And they talked about that a little bit tonight and how they planned with the teachers. They actually went in and taught with the teachers, and just having that firsthand knowledge about what's contained there, about all the components, about having that experience with our students is going to be so instrumental in having all of our teachers feel supported, including our newest teachers next year.
Agreed.
So Jen, this is the exact same topic that I wanted to ask about. So I just wanted to ask the committee, do you feel like the ELA teachers, the elementary school teachers are going to be ready for this come next year?
Yes.
Like, I mean,
They're all.
I really want to. Yeah, everybody feels good about that. Okay.
I think everyone's been interested in the pilot, and they're ready for some. I think the phonics pieces are very welcomed, and teachers are very excited. K-5, what that looks like. So I think that's going to be the best part about it, to really get people excited for something different. We need it.
Allie, you said something. The other part of my comment that I meant to bring up is that, and I'm going to totally age myself, but I grew up in the age of Hooked on Phonics, and then it felt like we went away from phonics for a while. So is phonics back?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, it's definitely based with it when we look at science of reading. And also Wiley Blevins, if anyone looks, is the guru of all phonics. He wrote the phonics piece to benchmark.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, we talked about that too. Like for when you asked about PD, I think I can speak for teachers too. Sometimes it is nice to have, it's been a while since we brought some stuff in too, and outside of just the curriculum PD, maybe thinking about what our teachers could use from, you know, the best of the best, and some of that too. So.
I feel like when we have these big numbers for curriculum, we always feel like, can we please have professional development? And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but we have to always remember that we're wasting our money if we don't have the professional development. So we need to, I just want to make sure that it is really baked in there. And then can somebody talk to me about Writable, because it just seems really cool.
Can I just get to the phonics and foundational
Yes.
piece? So Hooked on Phonics, ooh. But the benchmark thing that I really love, what makes it so different, is that it goes into the other parts of the lesson. So it's not just I'm learning it right here, but it goes into small group, goes into whole group. So you're going to find it all part of the lesson. Also, the vocabulary is embedded throughout the whole 2 hour. It's in your writing, and so is the foundational skills piece. It makes it so the kids can master the skill. We're not just learning it 10 minutes here. You're going to see it throughout the 2-hour block. So that's what makes benchmark. I think that's where we're going to see the big bang for our buck.
Can I just say one thing about phonics before we get to the writable thing? I appreciate the support that this phonics is being given within this resource, because I've talked to like young teachers, first-year students, and they tell me things like, in our training, in our education, she said one of them said that they had an exam and there was something on there called VCV, and she said she had never even heard of it.
Yes.
And she goes back to her professor and says, what is that? Like, we never learned anything about that. And so I'm just wondering, it's going to support teachers as well, because if they don't understand vowel, consonant, vowels, and they aren't being taught that, then now you're getting support from these resources that you're going to be using.
So I'm in a 4th grade classroom, and I started 24 years ago, and the big push was knowing the syllable types and teaching students the syllable types in order to decode. And we've kind of drifted away from that. And this year, through the use of benchmark, my kids can rattle off, we've learned 4 of the syllable types. Even today in a reading group, a student was struggling with decoding a word, so we covered up part of it. I said, what kind of syllable is that? He said, open. And I said, okay, is that a short vowel or a long vowel? And he was able to tell me a long vowel. So those syllable types are being taught, and that made my teacher hurt. Like, that pretty much just sealed the deal for me with benchmark.
The enthusiasm is so important, and I'm really thinking about the change management. You've heard about the investment in professional learning, but I would say that also your collaboration is really noteworthy.
Yes.
I mean, I think your shared commitment, your discernment around the choices. I pulled up the 2015 report, Jared. I did some history digging right now, and just went back there, and I think there's lots of strengths in that presentation, and kudos to those folks, but I can also see already marked differences in some of the things that you prioritize, really centering the needs and the outcomes of our students around academic performance, and thinking about how we are identifying a resource that's going to match that. So can you remind us where the community can go find this resource over the next 30 days? And I know that on the night of the board's vote, please come back so we can, or if tune in at least, so that you can see the celebration of that. But I would just say, let's remind us where people can go and review the information.
Yep.
Can I also interject one question? Just one, because I have to get it in. Sorry. So when we go to the middle school model, and if
Tune
we
in
get
at
it
next
done in
meeting.
the next, yeah, sorry, I had to ask. And no, I'm not
For the
campaigning.
middle school model?
For that, yes. When did I stop? If we get it done in the next 5 years, I'm going to assume that this will not be a hindrance in any way, shape, or form, right? Sorry, I just had to find a way to get it in there.
No, that's a great question. Absolutely not.
Writable. We're going to do writable.
All right, writable is super exciting from a language arts teacher perspective, especially after having taught such a writing-heavy curriculum for the last few years. Writable is a connected program to HMH, so it's a program that we're getting with it. And it has every writing prompt that is in the text series is already preloaded into the program, and you can assign it to students with different supports. So if I've already pre-assessed and know who might need to do talk to text, who might need grammar support, I can turn that on or off, sentence starters and frames for kids who might need it. You pre-select that ahead of time, so they don't even know they're getting differentiation.
That's awesome.
It's pretty slick. And then as they're writing, they can get continuous AI feedback, because getting around to between 25 and 32 students takes some time, so they can get continuous feedback. On the larger essays, you can use one of their rubrics, and all their rubrics are already standard by standard, or you can build one. So one of the writings, we built a rubric in it that matched the standards aligned rubric we were already using. And I scored them just human scoring, and compared my scoring to their AI scoring, I was within 0.3 of a point on every kid. I was impressed. And they provide feedback standard by standard, and then a paragraph of feedback at the ending. There's not enough time in the day for us to do that in a short amount of time to make it meaningful. It was, I cried. I'm not even kidding. My husband asked me, how are you done grading? I'm like,
One of my favorite features is a feedback feature where you can ask students to give peer feedback, but you do it through the writable. So you assign it to them, and then they're getting, in front of them pops up a peer's writing, but they don't know who. It's completely anonymous, and they get the standards in front of them, and they can give feedback to each other, and they can go, like, the opportunities are just endless. It's amazing.
I just have to say, it's just very timely for me. I was reading my son's essay. He was defending a position, and I felt terrible because I reached out to the teacher and I'm like, there are so many grammatical errors, there are so many this, and she's like, I have a lot, it's a lot to grade all these. It's in a short amount of time, and I can only get to so much, and I felt terrible. And so she's like, you just have to, he's getting the best that I can give, but I am one person trying to do all this. So it's so nice to hear that you'll have support for that other stuff.
It'll tell the student how many grammatical errors.
Yeah.
One student said, you have 102 grammatical errors, and he just looked at me and his mouth dropped open. I said, you better get back at it. And it doesn't tell them where. So then as the teacher, you can run a standard by standard report to see where they're struggling, and you know what mini lessons to offer that fit in our literacy framework.
Love that. Love
Amazing.
Isn't it cool?
Yes.
So
Okay, you
yeah.
gonna say something, and then we're gonna.
Cost
We're gonna wrap it up.
elementary, you said it came in under budget. Is it also 5 years license on the software, or?
It is not 5 years. We are still working with them within some parameters to get multi-years. But the initial costs are slightly over what we purchased this year. So for ReadyGen, for the costs for our digital access, replacement materials, we also have Words Their Way that has a digital component, and that all comes in a little over $300,000 that we spent for this year. And for a years of consumables and the digital components, the annual cost is $396,000. And as I said, we are still working with them to get the best costs.
Okay.
So that's
yeah,
not the final bottom line.
Okay, all right, yeah, it wasn't on there.
Mr.
And then I didn't hear
Obafemi
it-
will
I
be
didn't hear
reaching out to
multi-year.
connect with you all to also
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
a go
I-
at talking with their company.
Yeah, I want to make sure that it was something that we budgeted, and, yeah.
I just want to make sure that everybody knows, if you're wanting to come and view the materials, that you just come to the reception area there at district office, and we'll guide you to where you need to be to see the materials.
And then there was just one more thing. You gave an example, of improvement already. Can pretty much everybody say that they've seen relative improvement, more than they would have expected, I guess, just in the limited amount of time that you've used it, relative to the current materials? Okay. Well, I don't know if everybody.
Everybody in the audience.
I don't know about the, yeah.
Here it comes.
And
I had a kindergarten dad stop me in the hall. I was working with a kindergarten class, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Because he was just shocked at how far his child had come with the program. I saw a lot more writing come out of the kindergarten than I had expected to see, and so we were pleasantly surprised. And the teachers really liked the consumables, so the kids can be noticing and noting even at kindergarten, which is pretty cool.
And the teachers are continuing the pilot for the rest of the year.
Yes, they are. The Benchmark provided us the full kits at no cost to continue for the rest of the year.
Well, thank you all. Go ahead.
No,
final
it's
comment.
okay.
No, please.
I was just going to say I piloted reading with our second grade teacher and writing with our fourth grade teacher. at Fox Chase. And in second grade, one of the coolest things that we're able to do is being able to annotate in the consumable. It's like a little book, and they love it. I mean, we have them annotating, circling important words, writing vocabulary definitions, things that we are just not able to do with our current resource. And it's really cool to see an 8-year-old be able to do that, 7-year-old, some of them, you know, to be able to do that. So it's really, I've seen the kids change their thinking about reading. It's not just opening a book and reading it. They're actually working with that text, which has been a huge benefit.
And then my only comment is I love the, the statement, loving to learn, loving it. Because, it's one thing to get a meet or exceed, but it's to continue to love to learn. And so, and I'm glad that was one of your missions. So.
I just want to make a quick comment about dual language because I've seen a lot of growth in the short amount of time with their languages of connecting and really bridging the two languages together. As we mentioned before, our Ready Gen curriculum was very separated, where we would have a topic in English and then you just cut it and switch, next language, and it's something completely different. So with Benchmark, really truly bridging both languages together, we were just able to dig a lot deeper, and what students were able to draw on both of their languages to really deepen their comprehension and their discussion between each other, between their peers.
So it sounds like it really will enhance collaboration, which I know is difficult when you're having so many different resources, and over the years it's just been tough. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Shannon and Tammy, congratulations. I mean, this is one of the most collaborative experiences that I've had since I've been on the board, so kudos to the both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully you beat the ice.
Right? Do you guys look at them? No.
Please have a safe drive home this evening, everybody. Thank you again.
Safe travels home. Aaron, come here.
Oh, thank you.
Paging Aaron to the stage.
Like literally. I don't just say that. That is my thing.
Yep. I know. We got you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah.
And then last but not least this evening, Dr. Zwemke with an update of our draft of 24-25 school year calendar. One thing that I want to thank is I know that this has been a collaborative process involving our representatives from OEA and our district level team. So Dr. Zwemke.
Yeah, well, thank you, Board. This is a first draft tonight, and as Dr. Caligati has said, it's really a collaborative process amongst our unions. We are open to feedback. I'd like to go through 3 highlights tonight in order to set up the school year for great work that we're going to see next year throughout English and throughout all our other classes. So, number 1, our starts and our end times for next school year is proposed to begin on Thursday, August 15th, and conclude on May 23rd, which is a Friday. Our holidays and breaks, a couple things that I want to bring up to everybody is to be aware, Tuesday, November 5th is election day, so there's no school, so we needed to factor that in. Our winter break next school year proposed is December 23rd through January 3rd. Our spring break proposed is March 25th through March 31st. I also want to bring the highlight, many of you asked questions about professional development for what we just saw with the great curriculum work. We have our Teacher Institute days, 4 of those to start the school year off. We would have a Teacher Institute Day on Monday, the 12th of August, then a teacher work day, and then another teacher institute day, allowing for more time to get acclimated to the curriculum was the design that. And another area that is a little bit of a different of a design is coming back from winter break. The committee wanted to move the standard second semester institute day to the first day back to allow the secondary, junior high, and high school to get acclimated to classes that are just beginning second semester, similar to the run-up that they had to start first semester off. So a very nice concept that we would like to try for next year. So again, here's your highlights. August 15th, first day of school for students, concluding on May 23rd, Friday, May 23rd. Remember to be aware of Election Day, which we had to factor in, and then the professional development days. So this is our first draft. It's a collaborative process. We are open to feedback. What questions may I answer this evening?
I just have a couple things. One, first of all, I can only speak from my own experience, but that day when you're coming back from winter break, oh my gosh, like we did a work day in my district, and people love it. Like we had to walk away from it this year for some reason. I can't remember what it was, and people definitely missed it. So while I'd love to hear feedback, I think that's a definite win. The other piece too, and I know we can't align perfectly, but we do have a lot of educators living in this district, to say the least, and we certainly have a lot of cross, and I'm just curious if I know they have to finalize theirs, and we're all under the same kind of deadline. But I'm just curious if we're kind of looking at some of those other districts, just to. I hate it when we have conflicts and some teachers have no choice but to call off. It doesn't benefit the students, or when students are taken out for various reasons and so forth. So I'm just trying to see if we're as aligned as possible. I know that's impossible to do, like with every district.
Aligned with other districts?
Like you mean like with
so spring break and winter break and so yeah. And again, I don't expect an exact science, but
other questions. So again, Brian,
good feedback.
Just
Thank
review
you.
the timeline in terms of process. Just so
I have heard we're a little later in the calendar year than we would like to be. One thing that we talked about, not for this year, but into the future, we're interested in bringing you 2 years of calendars at once. Once this team kind of understands the process a little bit more, that'd be something. So we would like to just get feedback here tonight, follow up with representation, and then bring you a final draft a final copy in February for you to vote on, and we would recommend a final copy at the February 12th meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Dr. Zwemke.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, the fact that it's been went through committee work, and I'm assuming it's a pretty good product, or a good product.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Madam
right.
President.
Yeah. Moving on to 10.1, action items, securely classroom. Can I have a motion, please?
make a motion to approve the purchase of Securely Classroom.
Second.
I have
One
a comment before.
Yeah, me too,
Okay.
but you go first.
So I want to thank the board last month for last board meeting. Feels like a month. For the feedback. I know that the team worked hard to address the questions that were brought up. These are memorialized in the memorandum that you received this evening, and so it definitely helped strengthen the proposal that's being brought to the board, and I'm confident in the work that they've done for tonight. So.
Yeah, my only comment is, as I look at the costs and I see, like, for instance, I see that Hapara is 1,000 less, and I understand what we were, the information we were given, and I don't discredit it. I'm not going against it. That, we, Securely is what we're going with because of it, because of what we already have in place, right? And it working with what we have in place. the only thing, and listen, I'm not saying everyone's going to have a crystal ball and be able to look into the future, but when we do look at those bid processes, I think it's good for us to know in the future, hey, there might be other things that we have to utilize, and there might be a cost to this. And so when I go back and I think about what the bid was, in my mind, that bid was actually for Securely was actually 1,000 more, right? Because we have to go this route. And I'm not gonna say I'm gonna vote against it or anything like that. That's not my point. But I do think it's a learning tool and just something to be cognizant of, if that makes sense.
That's good feedback. Thank you. Okay.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Bloger?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Action item 10.2.
Good job.
10.2, policies for second read and approval. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the following board policies: Section 2, School Board 2:20, Section 5, General Personnel 5:30, 5:250, 5:330, Section 6, Instruction 6:15, 6:30, 6:50, 6:60, Section 7, Students 7:70, 7:160, 7:190, 7:270, 7:285, 7:290.
Second.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Bloger?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Can I have a motion to postpone action item 10.3 until our next meeting?
I make a motion to postpone action item 10.3, student disciplinary case, to our February 12th, 2024 Board of Education meeting.
Second.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Okay, action item 10.4, approval of building administrator contract. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the building administrator contract as discussed and presented.
Second.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Action item 10.5, personnel report. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
All right, we are returning to action item, we are returning to 7.3, board committee reports. We have equity and teaching and learning, equity and teaching and learning, and finance and facilities. Who would like to start?
I mean, for equity and teaching and
We can-
learning, I mean, you saw it.
I know.
I do have
Same with
one.
finance.
Yeah,
I have
same
one
with
I think we
finance.
can,
Okay.
unless,
Eugene has
Eugene's got
one
I have
comment.
something.
one
Oh,
very
yeah,
brief
we have
comment, is that today's meeting and presentation is why I was on the board. This is probably one of the best meetings that we've had, to me. That was great.
Yeah.
That's great. I just want to add equity and teaching and learning. We also discussed EL location or DL EL locations, which will be an upcoming board meeting, and space issues for those programs.
Yeah, and I think, just to add on to that piece, I think it's going to be really interesting when we get to looking at projections and so forth. And again, like I want us to always keep in mind that it's not blame. Like I think sometimes in society we get into a blame game or a race or I don't know what. To be honest with you, half-time doesn't make any sense to me. But it is what it is, right? And the reality of the situation is we have our schools located where they're located, and building is going to occur where building is going to occur, right? And you're not going to stop it. And so I think we need to make sure that our partnerships, and this kind of goes maybe with the legislation aspect of the legislation and policy, you know, we need to work with our partners. We need to make sure that we're voicing that piece. Infrastructure is going to matter, all of these pieces, and
it's going to cost.
And it's good. Yeah, it's not going to be free, right? It's not going to be free. And so, you know, I know this is going to sound really weird, but my oldest son, he's in my house. What is it? I don't even know this. Is it Pat McAfee or whatever, right? And he makes I hear this guy make the side comment where he says, well, everybody should be learning Spanish in school, right? And I don't know Pat McAfee from anything, but, you know, my son asked me, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, look at demographics, look at the numbers, look at everything else. And so we will have to have some serious conversations about dual language, and but it is important that we make this journey together and continue to make progress.
I just wanted to say our Finance and Facilities Committee and anyone that may possibly be listening, if you want to know what's actually going on with the track or with the swimming pool or with anything, our committees are really doing the deep work that they've needed to do for a very long time. And so Mr. Queen has shares an operational update on all the projects that are happening in the district. And so I encourage the board to look at the documents to see what's going on. And it's the most confident I have felt in a long time with understanding not just what's happening today, but what's happening 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the road. So it's very, very comforting for that. And we were in a makeup meeting because our meeting got postponed to Thursday, and I know that we really wanted to attend the dual language committee. I was so pleased when I walked a parent to Faith's office, and I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing, because I have a lot of parents that have reached out to say we feel heard finally. So thank you very much.
All right. Then 7.4, board member comments. Any board member comments? We have had a great meeting. That's all I got to say.
You know what? I do want one more thing, and I want to emphasize one more thing. When I sat in that teaching and learning committee meeting in 2015, and I want to make sure that I make it clear I was not on the board yet when that happened, right? I was mystified and frightened, right? And I can't help but, you know, I think sometimes maybe we deal with absolutes or whatever. That continuous journey from 2015 to now is evident. And it doesn't happen in a day, it doesn't happen in a year, no offense, it doesn't happen in 3 years. This is something that happens continuously, and the community has asked for growth, and it's been occurring, right? And so over the last 8 years, I have always seen growth from 1 year to the next. Even when we had to sit up there in 2019 and sit under the spotlights and do that kind of cutting, there was a good deal of the community that still understood it. And so I remember some dark days in 2015, and we have continuously made growth, and that's to everybody, all stakeholders, and I applaud all of them.
Good, thank you. All right, 11.1, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are not